What's up, Guardians? Profane here. Thanks for checking out the video. Today we'll be diving into the Grasp of Avarice to go over an updated guide on how anyone can easily solo and solo flawless this 30th anniversary dungeon. The Grasp of Avarice takes players through a swashbuckling adventure against Hive and Fallen forces, and this takes place in a familiar area of the Cosmodrome, a place that Destiny 1 veterans would refer to as the Infinite Loot Cave. If you're trying to hone in your skills towards soloing some of the newer dungeons like Ghost of the Deep or Warlord's Ruin, the Grasp of Avarice is a great stepping off point. The mechanics are a bit more complex, and the difficulty scale is much higher than the first generation of dungeons, like the Shattered Throne or the Pit of Heresy. Thanks to the addition of prismatic builds, it's never been easier for players to solo dungeons like this. So whether you're a new or a vetted player, this updated guide should help you on your journey towards a solo and solo flawless clear. And today we'll be using a Prismatic Warlock, using the Getaway Artist. We're using this exotic for the bonus damage that Arc Buddies will deal, but also for the bonus damage resistance that we'll gain when amplified, when transcended, and when in our Song of Flame super. If it's your first time diving into this dungeon, you should be less focused on a flawless run and more honed in on learning the mechanics and how the flow of each encounter goes. When the Grasp of Avarice starts, you'll be at the Loot Cave, and your only objective here is to defeat enemies, collect the engrams that they drop, and deposit those at the crystal that's inside the Loot Cave. You need 60 in total to complete this encounter. Once you've picked up an engram, you'll have a Burdened by Riches debuff that'll prompt on the top of your screen. This does have a countdown, and if it reaches 0, you will die, and you will lose all of the collected engrams. Every 10 engrams will fully restore your abilities and your super energy, so be sure to use that to your advantage in not only this encounter, but the following ones. And by using your super more, you'll be able to save on ammo. After depositing enough engrams, the floor will open up and grant you access into the rest of this dungeon. You're going to have to navigate through a network of cave systems before getting into a spillway area that leads into a missile silo. This area introduces switches and floor traps that have been left behind by the Fallen, so be sure to follow along with the video to get through these. Once you've made it into the silo, you'll be introduced with the Scorch Cannon, which will be a reoccurring mechanic throughout the rest of this dungeon. Scorch Cannons activate fallen generators that will open up different doorways. It'll take 3 to 4 rapid shots or 1 long hold of a shot to activate these generators. And before you leave the silo, be sure to grab the first hidden chest. This next encounter introduces our first boss, Phry'zhia, the Insatiable. Your objective here is to obtain the Scorch Cannon, open up rooms that are on the sides of the arena, defeat the hive that are inside, collect their engrams, and then deposit them at the crystal. After depositing 25 engrams into the crystal, damage phase will begin, but you'll only get about 12 to 13 from each side, so you will need to go into each room at least once in between every damage phase. Each damage phase lasts 30 seconds, and during that time, the boss is going to pelt you with non-stop void blasts, so having void resistance will be crucial. But that's also why we've gone with Prismatic, so we get the bonus damage resistance from Song of Flame, Transcendency, and Amplified, thanks to the Galvanic Armor artifact mod. Having some source of health restoration would also be a good idea, and to reduce the incoming damage from the boss, you could hide behind the crystal if your health gets low. You could also position on one of the sides of the arena and use those box generators as a barricade. I find sword and shotgun strats to be the most effective against this boss, so the Lament or Tractor Cannon would be the exotics that I would recommend. The Dragon's Breath would also be a great option if you're using the Solar Fulmination artifact mod, but in doing that you could put yourself in jeopardy. In all likelihood, it'll take you between 2 and 3, maybe even 4 damage phases to defeat Phry'zhia. Weapon surge mods could greatly improve the amount of damage that you'll be able to deal, decreasing how many damage phases you could end up having, but don't let that impair your ability to stay alive. After defeating the ogre, the next encounter should be a pretty fun one. You'll be navigating through a secluded area of the Cosmodrome on a Sparrow. You'll be in constant duress though, with Vandal snipers, skiffs, and landmines, but you'll need to be quick because this is a race against time. The always on time exotic Sparrow is by far the best to use in this encounter, since it reduces the likelihood of enemies shooting at you. You'll need to cross through all the capture points and grab as many extender triggers as you can. And once you've gotten to the end, be sure to cap that final flag, otherwise the mines will go off. And before you traverse deep into the crystallized caverns, be sure to grab the second hidden chest, which is in the left eye socket of this enormous skull. In this next encounter, you'll have to navigate through a series of platforms that are scattered across this arena, and you'll have to locate 4 different servitors. Those servitors will be used as bombs to destroy the fallen barrier shield that's in the ceiling. This encounter includes teleporters that will be activated with the use of Scorch Cannons. Those teleporters will also be used to launch the servitors into those shield generators. Once you've located a servitor, you'll notice that it has an indestructible shield, and that can only be taken down by collecting 20 engrams and depositing them into the crystal. Once you've deposited enough engrams, the servitor's shields will come down. And at that point, you'll need to defeat the servitor, push its corpse into the teleporter, and launch that puppy into the shield generator. Just be sure you're keeping an eye on your burdened by riches. Once you've defeated all 4 servitors and broken the fallen shield, you'll need to head to the center island, where you'll find the chest and the next teleporter that will lift you up into the final boss encounter. This final encounter against Captain Avarokk can certainly be a challenge for solo players. There's a lot of enemies, a lot of grenades, and a lot of floor traps. And there's also the boss's henchmen that will constantly cause you problems, especially the Shank. To engage damage phase, you'll have to deposit 60 engrams into the crystal that's in the center of the arena. And to get the engrams, you'll need to get the Scorch Cannon and use it on the generators that surround that center stage. Once activating a generator, cryopods are going to open up all around the room. And these are going to drop 10 engrams at each area, so you'll have to circle around the whole arena in order to collect them. The downside to this is that depositing the engrams takes place in the center, right where the boss and his henchmen are. So I would recommend taking out that Sniper Shank and the Yellow Bar Vandal as soon as they spawn in. And these do come back after each damage phase, but since all those engrams are going to provide you with super energy, you can afford to burn a few supers to get these guys off the board. After you've deposited 60 engrams, damage phase will begin, and you'll have 30 seconds to inflict as much damage onto the boss as you can. This is another encounter where the Tractor Cannon or the Lament would really serve you well, but if you do get up close and personal, just watch out for the boss's Stomp mechanic, because he can launch you out into the water, Guardian's mortal enemy. For most players, you'll see this encounter extending out to around 4, maybe 5 damage phases. And even though you want to put in as much damage as possible during each phase, you'll need to keep a close eye on your health bar, and you're burdened by riches. As you're fighting the boss, more rank and file enemies are going to spawn in on the islands, and if you don't have a means of health restoration, those are really going to start causing problems. But if you do need to fall back and hide for a bit, you can use the backside of the boss's cryopod. This would also be a good place to set up while you're taking down the Shank, but enemies can still throw grenades back at you. With that said, we're going to let the rest of the gameplay footage run through, but I wish you all the best and luck in completing this dungeon yourself. Let me know how your solo flawless attempts are going down in the comments below. Thank you as always for checking out the video. If you found it helpful, then be sure to hit that like button below, along with the subscribe button if you're new. Both are greatly appreciated, and both really do help support the channel. If you need to make a copy of the build that we're using in today's video, then be sure to check out the Mobalytics link that's down in the description, where you'll be able to find a ton of great in-game builds. If you're a new Light Guardian just starting your journey, or a battle-hardened veteran just looking for a new place to call home, then be sure to check out the Discord link that's also down in the description and join one of the greatest communities in all of Destiny. And until next time, Guardians, this has been Profane, wishing you all some happy hunting.